Hello gang and welcome to Deltia from DeltiasGaming.com, back with the Biting Harvester. Yes, the update that is ready to put you in place to be able to beat the content in Update 7. So if you're looking for a stamina-based Templar DPS build that can beat all the new dungeons, this is it, the Biting Harvester. Let's get started. Look at this gear, doesn't this not look fly? I'm on a boat too. Yeah, a boat. That's cool. Okay, there's no reason to be on a boat, but I want to talk about skills. Skills to pay the bills and get stuff killed. That rhymed. Yes, I'm not going to do a rap. So what I do is a two-hander here and a dual wield. Essentially the two-hander is just for movement with the critical charge, a buff with rally. And those are both from the two-hander line right here. Critical Rush, I use that to travel and close the gap if I need to get in close to use Biting Jabs, which is on my other bar, or if I'm doing, like, let's say wave 7 of Vet Dragonstar Arena. You don't necessarily have to have this, but I do like it. Executioner is my finisher, though I don't use it too often. The reason is I don't have a Master Greatsword yet. Yes, even all the times I've ran Vet Dragonstar Arena, I still have a Master Greatsword. Then the obvious self-heal, Rally. Rally, self-heal, the Major Brutality, it's awesome. Essentially what I do is use this in a combination with potions with the medicinal use to essentially get like almost, 40 plus 30, 70 some seconds of uptime for Major Brutality. So if I use this, that's 33 seconds, and then I use a Weapon Power Potion, which is here. After that, with the medicinal use passive, I get 70 seconds of 20% more weapon damage. So either way, you can go ahead and recast it every 30 seconds if you want to save money on potions, or you can make these suckers. Optimally, the Panacea of Speed is probably the best because it gives you speed, restores stamina, and the only thing we need is Major Brutality. Those are pretty expensive. Not a lot of people run those. Then the third ability that I have on my bar is Camouflage Hunter. Now, you'll see in the video that I put Evil Hunter there. And the reason is, Camo Hunter is more damage right now, but in the update, it's Evil Hunter. That's going to be better in Update 7. And I want you guys to have something that prepares you for Update 7. So, you're going to need to switch this morph out. But for right now, if you're on Update 6, use Camo Hunter. If you're not, take the different morph. That's from Fire's Guild. Essentially what this lets you do is do a lot more damage to Daedra and Undead. And plus, just having it slotted gives you the major weapon critical bonus. I think it's like 5% or so. So it's a no-brainer. The nice thing is about stamina builds is they use it as bread and butter to produce a lot of damage. And the Evil Hunter will actually give you back stamina, percentage chance. So ideally this build is going to be awesome for Imperial City. Why? Because they're all Daedra. Pretty much the entire thing is Daedra and Undead. So you're going to have a whole lot of things to kill with this sucker. And then I have another spot, Blazing Spear. Now the reason I use Blazing Spear, it's kind of a magic dump. It's a good synergy, and it actually does decent AoE damage even if I'm using it in a stand build. So I do like this. It also stuns enemy at range if for some reason I need a stun. But essentially you can switch up a lot of these abilities. So I risk rolled my Templar and I've only got an Assault Rank 4, just PvPing for 2 days basically. But you could use Razor Caltrops. That produces a lot of damage instead of maybe Crit Rush or Executioner if you don't want to execute. You could even swap this out. The important thing though is you need a spear thing here because of this passive Piercing Spear. Gotta have that on round 1. So if you didn't want to use Blazing Spear, you could slot Charge instead of Crit Rush and have something else here. Either way, this is the setup that I ran with. It took me all day yesterday to get Meteor because, again, I just hit VR14 like no time and I got this guy grinded up. It took 42 hours once again. This is the ultimate that I prefer, and I'm going to take the Ice Comet morph because it does more damage in Update 7. The nice thing about this is it's really low cost and you can cast it at range, so you don't have to be up close. And it's an insta cast and you can go on with your business. The bad thing about this is you can't cast it before mobs appear. You have to actually have a target on something. So like for Vet DSA, you might want to swap in Solar Prison because you can cast it before and do a lot of damage, but I think top DPS ability Meteor is still the king unless you're a Dragon Knight. And that's as simple as it gets. So really, you're not doing a whole lot on this bar besides executing, doing buffs. The major spend time place we're going to be on is dual wield. So why dual wield? Well, dual wield lets you equip another piece of gear, and that's really important because two-hander doesn't, and you can get another set bonus or something else with your gear. Also, it has the best AoE in the game, which is Steel Tornado. Steel Tornado with Camouflage Hunter and Rally Up is the most dominant AoE in the game for stamina. It's just incredible. 12.5 meters, it only costs 1800 stamina, and it does more damage the lower health the mobs are. It's like a AoE finisher that touches the entire map. It's incredible. So that's going to be our main AoE that we're going to use. And then we're going to use biting jabs. Get the biting harvester, you get it? We're going to use this. Now, I have Camouflage Hunter or Evil Hunter slotted as well. And you're probably like, Delty, well, this grants you Major Savagery, increasing your weapon critical by 8 seconds. So if you really, really, really wanted to get away with it, you could cast biting jabs every 8 seconds. But sometimes I just Steel Tornado for more than 8 seconds, depending on the situation. So just know that you could have some flexibility there as well. Biting jabs is the best damage target, single target thing, I think, probably in the game right now in Update 7. You just charge, do this. You guys have seen it a million times on all my videos. It's just fun. It's just fun. It never gets old. The first time I saw this in beta, I was like, what class is that? And it's still good. Both morphs if you're magic, but you got to have this if you're stamina. The nice thing about this as an Imperial is that it will self-heal you. So yes, I really, really like biting jabs. And then a couple other things here for dual wield. Quick Cloak gives you speed, only lasts for 5 seconds. The nice thing about Quick Cloak that people don't understand is it lowers your AoE damage. So as a melee, a double melee, it's really hard staying in there and taking all this damage. If you have Quick Cloak, it'll have a big, big, big impact on your survivability. And also it procs Ravager gear, which we're going to be using for Update 7. Yes, Ravager gear is still very, very good for a Templar. Other classes, not so much. The reason being is good old biting jabs hits what, 4 times plus a medium weave. Essentially that's 5 attacks in 1.5 seconds, giving it a lot more time to proc, which I'll explain our gear later. And then an optional ability I don't see a lot of stamina Templars use is Flying Blade. This thing is amazing. It's a snare, hits really hard, and has 28 meter range with low cost. In Update 7 it's going to be even better. Why? Because it gives us the Major Brutality buff, the weapon damage buff, making it so we don't have to use a two-hander if we really don't want to. I still plan on using a two-hander because the self-heal with Rally is really good. So we have everything we need on this bar to do DPS. We got range, so we don't have to be just melee. We got a nice buff. There are speed, AoE damage reduction. We have our crit bonus that we could swap out for something else. Our single target ability, our AoE, and then the ultimate that we're basically going to use slotted is Flawless Dawnbreaker. 8% weapon damage while slotted. That's an incredible amount. Incredible, incredible, incredible. And it's actually a decent ultimate. At 96 ultimate cost, this thing hits like a truck. And I constantly use it because I generate ultimate pretty fast doing medium waves. So often I'll use a meteor during a boss fight, and before it's over I'll have enough to do a Dawnbreaker, adding a lot to my single target damage. So that's basically it. Let me get off the boat here. Why I jumped on a boat, I don't know. Oh my gosh. Argonian passive. Look at that. Is that green moss? What is this? This poison damage? I know this has nothing to do with skills, but I'm curious. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I don't know why I had to suffer through that. So, the buff system here, what I do, it's kind of complex. A lot of bar swapping. Essentially, you're going to go 30-second buff, 15-second, 15-second, and then sweeps. Sweeps and medium wave. The trick is to the medium wave animation cancel. So sweeps is 1.1, and then light attack. That's what it looks like if you're doing it bad. If you're doing it right, you're going to come off of it like that, and your guy's going to make a little glitch. You see that little glitch? That's going to register as a heavy attack, doing a lot of damage in between. And that's pretty much it. AoE, all you're going to do is Steel Tornado. Now, the trick to Steel Tornado and spamming Steel Tornado appropriately is you'll see a lot of people that use Steel Tornado. Let's say this deer's our enemy. They'll be literally right on top of this deer. That's not exactly what you need to do. Remember, it's 12.5 meter radius, so you can be back here and still hit that deer. See, as it moves, I keep moving. You want to basically hit as much targets as you can without taking that much damage. That's the trick to being a good DPS. So if this deer's here and I have another target here, I'm not going to just sit here and do this. I'm going to try to position myself right here so I get hit both of them, that tree and that deer. Constantly look around and think, am I hitting the max targets? You only know this if you look in your FTC window and it says, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. So I'm constantly looking at that and trying to position myself. Don't be right up on top of it. There's no point in doing that. Go back here. Also, if you're just rolling a Templar and you're doing the Steel Tornado spam, you're not used to it, get a friend, and all you do is aggro a mob and keep inching a little bit closer. Am I hitting the mob? Am I hitting the mob? And so then you can lock that in your brain. What's my frame of reference? It's right here. Okay, so I know I have to be just about that close for anything to hit it. Then all you do is just stay at range. Don't go any closer if you don't need to. Believe me, it'll save you a lot of painful deaths. Same thing with jabs. Jabs, if we look at the skill on the tooltip, it's actually 8 meter radius. So when you actually look at the ability here, the damage actually goes out further than your little spear does. So I see a lot of Templars that will die constantly being up close to stuff. It's like if this is the boss, they'll sit here and just be right on top of it. I got a spear spam. Well, you don't have to. You want to be back here. Same thing. Medium weave. You only want to be on top of it when you need to be. Like if there's another boss on the other side. That's a good idea to be right on top here. Also, it does go out in front, so if we look at the tooltip on this ability as well, it's 8 meter radius. So that doesn't mean like 1 meter right in front of us. So it could hit this guy and it could hit this guy if you position yourself appropriately, like this. The whole point I'm trying to make is that jabs is an AoE, Steel Tornado is an AoE. And it honestly takes a lot of skill to appropriately position yourself so you're hitting everything you possibly can be. It takes a whole lot of time to master it, and I am far from it. But that's the skills, and that's pretty much how I use them. Pretty simple. If you get in trouble, you're going to use Rally for a self-heal. If you double cast, it'll give you a nice big burst heal. If you run out of stamina, you're going to throw spears until your magic runs out for good AoE. It's not the best, but it's better than nothing. And then you're going to execute as the boss hits about 25% health. Very simple. Very effective. All you're going to do is keep up 2 buffs. Rally, Camel Hunter if it doesn't stay on, and then Quick Cloak. And then you're going to go Spear. Spear. That's literally all I do. When Quick Cloak is down, you're going to cast it again. When Rally's down, you're going to cast a potion. That does the same thing. So essentially in a 1 minute parse, you can only cast Rally once, giving you tons and tons of uptime. The benefit of this build, it's simple. It's not the most damage producing build on planet Earth, but it's up there, and it's easy to play. So let's talk about the important passives that make it shine. Since I grinded this character up, I had to really pick the most important passives that I had to get. So I want to save you guys the time and trouble to figure out exactly what it is. Adric Spear has the 2 most important in your class skill line, which is Piercing Spear, increasing your critical strike damage, and Balance Warrior, 6% weapon damage. That is incredible. That's why Templars, or Stamina Templars, make one of the best DPS classes in the game, and they're not going anywhere in Update 6 and 7. Dawn's Wrath is not that important. The only really major important one that I like is Restoring Spirit, reducing magic stamina cost, and of course Ultimate, making Meteor even a better plus. Restoring Light, not that important either. Mending's pretty good. Self-heals are increased based on the severity of your wounds. Master Ritualist is good. Resurrection Speed. But really, while leveling, I didn't have any of these suckers. Wasn't that important. On the two-hander, these are very important. So reducing two-handed cost, if you're not going to use it for skills, this is still very good because Rally does cost a bit, especially if you're going to spam cast it if you need heals. Some of the other ones that are nice, heavy weapons will give you a bonus, especially if you're using the Execute. And then also, Battle Rush. Boost your stamina generation by 30% 10 seconds after killing a target. Now you're probably wondering why in the video I posted Repentance instead of Executioner. And the reason is, Executioner is great if you have a Master Restoration staff. Or Master Two-Hander, excuse me. Repentance is great if you don't. And the reason why, you can use corpses. And usually a healer or some other type of Templar is going to do that. But the other reason I like it is for this stamina regeneration, the minor, 10%. So not only having this on your bar, along with using a potion that gives you 30% more stamina. Let's say you kill someone with a crit rush, you're looking at a lot more stamina. Talking about almost 60% for 10 seconds. So that's why I like it there. Now, like I said, Executioner is great if you have a two-hander, and that's the reason why. So, but I like to slot Repentance if I don't. So I don't even have the Master Two-hander. I should have Repentance on there. Or something else. Dual wield, basically these are all important. It increases damage with dual wield abilities by 20% against enemies with under 25% health. That's going to make Steel Tornado hit much, much harder. You gotta pick that thing up early. Dual wield Expert, offhand damage, that's pretty good. Reduced cost, that's an obvious, super important one, which I skip everything else until this is maxed. Ruffian gives you 25% damage attacking stunned, immobilized Saurian, or silent enemies. Now, imagine if you have a Sork in your team that negates a huge area of mobs. 15% more damage while you're using Steel Tornado. It's definitely worth getting. And this is the bread and butter. I know I say that a lot. But makes whatever type of weapon you have get a bonus. So maces, ignoring armor, swords increase damage, and daggers do more crit. Now, that brings the question. What's better? Swords, daggers, maces, or axes? Well, it just depends on your build, really. In PvE, I still think daggers and precise is probably the best, though I haven't tested it directly, so I don't know. Swords are really, really, really good, but maces are probably the best for PvE, or PvP, excuse me, for armor reductions, and crits can be ignored by players, not enemies. And axes, they do have a place, but it's not that effective. Maybe if you're running a Valken Scoria build, which I'm not anymore. Because I tested out Valken Scoria, and it wasn't worth it in straight gear that I'm wearing right now. So, those are the really important ones. Armor, obvious choice. I take every single one, but first off, I just focus on Windwalker, because that's my recovery and reduced cost. Once that's done, I go to the agility, the 5-piece bonus, and gives us a lot of weapon damage. And then I am wearing heavy armor, so I focus on these. Juggernaut is okay, but Constitution does give you back some resources getting hit. Every 4 seconds, not that much, but every bit adds up. Bracing, stamina cost for 5 or more, not using it, so I don't worry about it. Now, Rapid Mending it does actually add up. And the reason why is, the more healing receive we have, bonus to, as an Imperial, I have the Red Diamond. Melee attack, the 10% chance to restore, etc. health. This actually adds up. If you have champion points, you're an Imperial, and you're spamming biting jabs, you have a lot of self-heals. A lot. So that's why I'm really, really sturdy as an Imperial. Now, you're probably wondering, and what race do I take? Honestly, in Update 7, I think the best, absolute best, is not an Imperial, but a Red Guard. And the reason is the stamina return on melee attacks. If that applies to biting jabs, medium weaving, you basically would never run out of resources. And for this build, since I am wearing too heavy, I'm pretty stamina starved, and I'm dependent on a healer and another Templar throwing me spears and using repentances. However, Imperial is fantastic because it makes you really, really sturdy. You get a lot of self-healing, you have tons of max health, so it just depends on your route. Imperial, since I'm going to PvP on this guy, I like it. But Red Guard, straight up, probably the best damage in the game. And then other things that you really want to focus on, I'm a vampire, that's just for PvP purposes. I would not be a vampire or a werewolf if you're just playing PvE. Fighters Guild, these are pretty obvious ones. Slayer and Banish the Wicked. More ultimate, that's a no-brainer. And then increase weapon damage while fighting Daedra. Awesome. Mages Guild, now I do use the Mages Guild passes because I throw a meteor down and 20% more damage in the next attack, so I will throw a Blazing Spear usually right after it, because that does hit pretty hard with that activated up. And then increasing the duration of Mages Guild by 20% abilities, or 20%, meteor, longer, better. Undaunted. These are actually really, really important, because more max stamina we have, the better. And that's where it comes in Undaunted Metal. And I haven't got Alliance rank or Undaunted 9 yet on this guy, just because I just got him up here. But I've been working very, very hard to get it to 7 before I made this video. Undaunted Command, ultimately very underrated, one of the best passives in the game. And once you get 2 points in this, it's based off your max percentage, and you're looking at what? Almost, if we get one more point in this, we're looking at 1200 stamina for using a synergy. If I use a spear, I'm almost getting about 8,000 to 9,000 stamina back. That's almost a third of my stamina that I can get back by using a synergy. Incredible. You gotta have this sucker. The other thing you gotta have that people don't realize is medicinal use. Making potions last 30% longer. I have it all on my characters. It's a pain leveling this over and over and over, but it's such a performance increase combining potions with rally that I consider it a must at endgame. At VR2, do you have to do this? No. But if you want to squeeze out every bit of performance, you got to do this. So let's talk about the gear next. Okay, the gear that I'm using is pretty much from my old Bloody Butcher setup that came out just at the beginning of Update 6. It still works, it's still fantastic, and it probably should last us through Update 7 and allow us to get access to the new gear. I use a 5-piece Hunting's Rage, and that is Divines on the small pieces and Fuse on the large. And if you're asking what my chest, helm, and shoulders are, that's the Dwemer set. Love it, looks beautiful. And then I use good old Ravager's gear, gauntlets and legs. You want 2 pieces. You want 1 little piece, 1 major, just because it's impenetrable, not the ideal setup. And I like to craft my own chest. I know I'm vain, but 300 weapon damage almost is just it's too good to pass up. I enchant everything with stamina because my race gives me so much health. And then the Ravager rings, they are healthy with 1 robust. Not ideal, but we have so much health, that's a good thing. And then also you're going to want to enchant everything weapon damage. No reduced cost because I have a lot of champion points. And then I use Master Daggers. So it's a 5-2-2 setup. Why Master Daggers? Because they give me a lot of weapon damage just for having them equipped. Now I have 1 Sharpened, 1 Precise, 1 VR14, 1 VR13. So it's just a matter of getting the other one. Then I would test Sharpened versus Precise, but since I don't have access to that, I don't. And then my bitter Void Steel Greatsword. I'm so bitter about this because I still have yet to get a Master Greatsword. Why does that matter? Because the Master Greatsword gives you almost equal weapon damage to your Master Dagger, making Execute really, really viable. Because right now, if I do the 25% health Execute, it's basically the same damage as just using Biting Jabs. So I need to test that out, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a major DPS increase to use Execute at 25% health. Ravager's gear, where do you get this? You get Ravager's gear from PvP vendors right now. It's super expensive. Hunting's Rage can be crafted, and then the Master Daggers can be only found through Dragonstar Arena. So, not easy to get a hold of this. Now, in the Update 7, what am I going to do? Is probably a 2-piece Molag Kina, a 5-piece Hunting's Rage, and then a 3-piece of the Agility set. I don't know. That's just what I tested over there, and it seemed to have really, really good results. But we could go with something else. And then a 3-piece Shadow Walker or the Agility, just depending on what's more damage. But this gear here will allow you to get through the content. Now, what if you don't have this gear? Because I'm going to get a million questions on that. A really good base setup to run is 5 Hunting's Rage, and then 3 or 4 Ashen Grip. Delta, you only have 7 pieces. Well, to include the weapons. So you craft your 5 Hunting's, and then maybe 1 here, and then 2 weapons or 1 weapon of Ashen Grip. That's going to be able to get you through a lot. The thing you're going to have to spend your money on is your jewelry. If you're at VR 1 to 5 or something, you don't have access to really that much good jewelry. If you do, just go buy the Mage's Guild or the Fighter's Guild jewelry that's robust, enchant it with weapon damage or reduced cost, whatever you can. That's what I did while leveling. I don't concern myself with top-end gear when I'm VR 2. I don't. There's no point. Reason is, get something that's usable while you're leveling up. You're not going to conquer the world at VR 2. At VR 14, 16, or beyond, you will. So, don't get too concerned about it. If you don't have access to Ravager, I think the second best setup would be 5 Hunting's Rage, 3 Ashen Grip or 4 in your dual wield bar, and then 3 Shadow Walkers. That should be able to get you through a lot of the content in the game, doing solid DPS. And an added benefit is, if you can craft your own gear, you're running 7 medium instead of 5 and 2. 2 heavy really does slow down your stamina recovery. So you're going to have a lot better sustain. And you might actually want to do that until you get a hang of the build. So, talking about sustain, let's go over to CP, champion points. I'm up to about 530 champion points. Yes, I know that's a ridiculous amount, considering that I play this job pretty much professionally. So, there's people that have 1,600, so I'm not the highest in the world. But there is a certain point over 300 you really start getting powerful. Under 300, it's a pretty big deterrent. It is, and I know they're fixing it, so just stick with me. So regardless of how many you get, what I like to do for a PvP build is focus more on reduced cost than I do regeneration. PvP, I do the exact opposite, since I use drinks over food. But with food, max stats, reducing costs just makes sense. So my 60-40 split roughly here is ideal in terms of resource regeneration. So I go here, Warlord, then Mooncalf, and then if I expect to do some PvP or I'm having stamina issues due to CC break, I'll put a few points in here. As far as the blue and the damage dealing stuff, I really like a decent amount into Blade Expert. This starts to add up doing medium weaving, as it's usually my third or fourth major source of damage. Spec heavily into this. So usually what I do is do a split between tons in the mighty, 20, 20, 20, or 20 here, basically. And that gives me a good solid offense. Now, ignoring physical armor attacks. If I do have 2 sharpened daggers, I might do something different with this. And if I have 2 precise, I might dump some more points into here. You're probably under Delta, why do you have magic damage in this? That's because it hits Burning Light, hits harder. 8% harder. That adds up a lot over time. So if you're just starting and don't have tons of champion points, you may not want to go into here, may want to spec more into Mighty, but Mighty is the no-brainer. Moving on over here. So I am a vampire. Now the reason I'm a vampire is for PvP purposes. If I was solely doing PvE, I wouldn't worry about this too much, but Spell Shield gives me a massive amount of resistance. Spell resistance applies to fire damage. Don't believe me? Spec into it, get hit by fire, spec out of it, get hit by fire, and see. So does Elemental Defender. So I put tons of points in here to mitigate some of the crappy disadvantage of Vampire. And then I go Hardy because magic damage is all over the place. And the real reason I stick to 120 in here is this. Reduce stamina cost of abilities 80% when breaking free. That is amazing. So breaking free into a Steel Tornado almost costs nothing. So I consider sticking to this middle tree priority number 1. And then quick recovery. Increase the effectiveness of healing received by 4.7%. So I'm dumping points into here because I want my self-healing to be stronger from my Imperial passive. And that's pretty much it with champion points. Now let's show you combat and talk about that. Before we go over combat, I want you guys to see some of my parses and the most damage I've done with this build. I've tested this thoroughly. Whether it's Hyeth in Bet Dragonstar Arena, the good old Bloodspawn boss, or AoE damage in Hellraw Citadel, this build has been thoroughly tested. And I got my main source of damage pretty much using the same setup, but I went through painstaking results of seeing what's the best. So trust me, this is how I pull it off, with my best Bet DSA score of all time, even though I screwed up on the last round. We're running in slow-mo again so I can show you and explain what's going on. First I got my 2 buffs up, Rally, and then Quick Cloak, and I throw a Flying Dash as I close the gap. And then I go into good old Biting Jab spam mode. It's this simple. Now, remember, every time you put a pick up spear up as that synergy is below my key, you lose damage. So only do it when it's necessary. Basically, with 1 point in the metal, it costs me about a second a time for 8,000 stamina. So I'm going to pick it up when I have to rebuff Quick Cloak, not any time before. And I'm saving my potion cooldown until Rally's down. Essentially, you can get 2 Quick Cloaks and a Rally before you use your potion, and with 1 spear, if you're doing the exact timing that I'm talking about. So I'm just continually to do this. It's really that simple. A medium weave will register a heavy attack into this. I'm not using an ultimate for this fight either, just so I can show you the sustain and what I'm doing overall. Now, for other fights that last longer, you're going to have to be better with your stamina resource management. But for this one lasting a minute, I can really burn through it and spam them biting jabs. And look at that. Burning Light's hitting for 7.1 on a crit. Biting jabs is hitting for 5.7. That's a lot. Reason being, I'm constantly keeping Quick Cloak up so my Ravager gear is procced, or through the biting jabs. Potions down to 20 some seconds. Quick Cloak is going to be reactivated and continue the spam. Now I'm getting close to the execute range, and I made a judgment here. Do I get a spear? Because you can get one every 30 seconds, or do I go in execute mode? I went in execute mode, which probably was the bad idea because I do run out of stamina towards the end. Now as you can see, the health is starting to drop. The mob is taking more and more damage. Also, another mistake that I made is you want to have Quick Cloak up for the full duration of the execute. So make sure to recast Quick Cloak. A spear comes out, and one more twirly, pick it up. That 1 second cost me great damage. So I could have pushed over at 19k if I would have had Quick Cloak up and also Executioner. And I'm not light attack weaving, I'm just spamming execute. With the Master Greatsword, you can expect 200, almost, well, about 150 more weapon power and bigger, better results. But that's it. It's one of the simplest builds, but yet one of the most effective. And that's why I love the Biting Harvester. Well, gang, that's a build. Now, I know this is a monster video. It took a lot of time to get this done, but I want to make sure that you guys at home have the tools you need to be able to beat the new content. This build is simple, it's fun, and it's really effective, though it does take time to master resource management. You can have some good variations of it that still progress through the content, and I cannot wait to show it off and update 7 once it launches here in about a week. So until then, I'll still be cranking out those builds and videos, getting ready for IC. Thank you so much for watching.